Welcome back to BT Vancouver. We're talking COVID concerns right now in the province, and we're sending the curve in the wrong direction. To break down some of the latest news from Dr. Bonnie Henry yesterday, we'll bring in News 1130's Liza Yuzda. Welcome back to BT.
Thanks, Thor.
Now, I was driving home and listening to News 1130, as I always do, and they were saying Bonnie Henry is having an unscheduled press conference today, and I thought, that is not good. So tell us the latest and some of the regulations when it comes to restaurants, bars, and nightclubs.
One of the biggest things that I heard that came out of yesterday's press conference is out of what happened in Kelowna, the exposure events around Canada Day, 1,000 people around BC are in isolation because of those couple of parties over a couple of days. So I think it's a real wake-up call to how quickly small events can turn into big events around the province. Some of the things that Dr. Henry is looking at changing the guidelines coming out today on WorkSafe BC with nightclubs that technically aren't open until the next phase, but serve food, so we're able to get around it. People have to sit at their tables. There will be no moving around. There will be no bar service, self-service to the bar. You will have to sit there. And she's also looking at closing places at 11 o'clock. I'm not quite clear if that means just in the interior, where they're seeing a lot of people get together and having a lot of fun, or if it's going to be broadly across the province. 11 o'clock being sort of what she said, the tipping point. My words would be like when people get loosey-goosey, when they have too much to drink to make wise decisions. So that's some big changes that we could see coming at bars and restaurants and pubs.
Yeah, and Bonnie Henry also saying that you can't do the table hopping thing, and you really need to limit the number of people in your party if you are going to a restaurant.
Well, that hasn't changed. You were supposed to only be 6 people at a table. You weren't supposed to move between them. But people are asking when they're going there, they're either bringing 2 groups of 6 and then switching between tables, or they're just moving around, or they're asking for a little leeway. And she's saying, just stop that. And she has been saying that for some time. So obviously they're taking the next step to really make that distinct and difficult. One of the other things that has come up with these large groups is the third beach gathering that we've seen a lot of video of. And she was asked about that yesterday too, and you know, it's kind of bananas when you look at it. And she said, you know, obviously it was a beautiful night and people want to get out there, and she understands that, but be in small groups, be separate from each other.
Okay,
pretty straightforward.
Yeah, exactly. Let's move on to the schools. My wife was really upset yesterday. She basically said to me, so someone can go to a strip club, but there's still a question whether or not my kindergartner can go into grade 1 and start school in September. So there's a lot of different regulations for different areas, but when it comes to children's education, still a lot of question marks. So what's the latest when it comes to schools opening up again in September, according to Education Minister Rob Fleming?
Spoke to him yesterday, and we are going to get all the details next week, hopefully by next Wednesday. They're just working out their scheduling with Dr. Henry because she will be there with him. He is saying, and as he has said in the past, that his goal is to have 100% of kids, at least in elementary and middle school, in for full education. But it's not going to look like it did before, talking that there may be cohorts of kids that stick together and move around in a pod. And of course, there's the staggered timing as we've had before. So there are still a lot of questions of what that's going to look like. But they are angling to get as many kids back in as possible. And I know that terrifies some parents. I remember, though, Dr. Bonnie Henry saying that children 10 and under, they've looked at studies from Korea and other places, that they're far less likely to spread or catch the virus.
And Premier John Horgan will be holding a news conference later today. What's your sense of what he'll talk about later?
Well, I know one of the things a lot of people are wondering about is who can enforce things like what happened at Third Beach. We talked to the city, we talked to Parks Board, they said we can't do it. Then we asked Bonnie Henry, and she said, yes, they can. Cities do have the ability, their bylaw officers do have the ability to do that. So I think a big question is, who's doing this enforcing?
Okay, awesome. Thanks as always for that update, Liza.
My pleasure.
Okay, you have a great day. That's News 1130's Liza Yuzda, legislative reporter, and we've got much more